There we go. All right, Cliff. So happy to have you on. Not gonna lie, I've been looking forward to this, man.
Dude, I think it's really awesome that you're doing podcasting now. I like that you're leaning into your interests. Like, we met because we have a mutual love of Survivor, and obviously we love other things too. You love sports, I love comedy. We're both business builders, both dads, so it was great to be able to hop on this and like just shoot the shit with you today. I'm really pumped about it.
Hell yeah! So everybody, welcome to the Built Different podcast. This is what we're gonna call a different conversation because it has nothing to do with sports, has nothing to do with us being high off life. So it's just gonna be a different conversation. So today, I got Clifford
we can kick
Myers.
sports a bit if you want. You're wearing a Canadian jersey. I gotta respect that.
Yeah, man, I wore it just for you. So
And this is my
Clifford
sport,
Myers.
grocery stores. So there you go.
As you guys could tell, he's a comedian. He's a Canadian comedian, and I was telling people that I was gonna do this, and the moment I said Canadian comedian, they just laughed. They just understood, which I love.
Okay,
Which
it's good.
I love. No one really asked for any like, oh, why are you doing this? They were just like, oh, comedian from Canada. That's funny. It is a little bit, but
Well,
how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Like, and that's the thing. Like, you talking about being built different. I sometimes think that like Canadian comics are built a little different. In terms of we have a much smaller population. Like, our population's less the size of California, our entire country, right?
Jesus.
So you got to imagine you have a full country of comedians that's performing to this small sample size in the worst weather conditions, and it just generates like a good crop of weirdos. Like, I really love the comics here.
I was gonna say there's a lot of space for not a lot of people. I've never been to Canada, but one thing I appreciate about Canada is it's big. There's not too many people. It's kind of like an escape from America in a way.
It's such a weird concept that every time shit's going down in America, people are like, yo, we got to get to Canada. And that makes no sense. It's like everything you love about America, you're going to hate it here. Well, like, you don't get guns. That's not going to happen. Like, it's not going to get to be a thing. You're not going to really be able to afford for a place to live. Like, it is like you talk about like New York prices and LA prices. Canada, kind of no matter where you go, it's crazy just of how much like our shipping and supply takes. Everything requires more in Canada, so everything costs more, and it's just like I really feel like Americans have this strange skewed idea of what Canada actually is. And we're supposed to be your little brother. You treat us like garbage. I'm kidding.
No, we treat Mexico like garbage for whatever.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we're treated better than Mexico. Okay, I will give you that.
Canada just gets to exist, and I never understood this either. Well, I mean, I kind of get it, history, but like Canada just gets to exist in the north. No, we don't bother them. We actually we love Canada. We love the idea of Canada. Toronto. That's where the most beautiful women in the world are. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And then just Mexico is just like all the stories you hear about Mexico is if you go there you die. It's shitty. You only want to go to the travel locations, like the very specific tourist spots. Like they treat Mexico, and I'm not saying this is what I know or facts, but this is what I'm told. It's like the wild, wild west in Mexico. So. Is it the Wild Wild West in Canada?
The Wild Wild North? No, definitely not. Like in that regard, I also don't really think Mexico is fully right. Like I think that's probably a little bit of a skewed perspective. I've been to Mexico. It's a party. It's a good time. You go off the beaten path, it gets weird. Suddenly you don't have a finger. That happens, but you still have a memory. So what are you complaining about, Thomas?
Right. Memory. There you go. Right.
Like I wouldn't say that it's like yeah, it's not like Wild Wild West up here per se, but it's definitely like it's more contained, right? We got like a kind of like we have a prime minister that like leans into rules. He kind of likes them. And during the pandemic, they were like, yeah, we get to change the rules daily. They were like so stoked. Like I would hear like my relatives complain like, oh, they tell us we can't do this now. We have to be this far apart. We have to wear 7 masks and a diaper on our face. What are we going to do? And then like every day I'm like, I am on season 3 of BoJack. I don't need to deal with these problems. I don't
Oh
use
my
toilet
god.
paper. Because everyone stole it. So like my ex-wife she left a bag of her socks behind, so we worked that out. And God, we're off to the races.
No, dude, COVID, like real quick about COVID, that was a crazy fucking time, man. Because I remember like I was like you know, I have TV, I have video games, the places where I was working, you know, I could work at home, or I could do my business at home. So I didn't really care. I love not being around, you know, idiots. But then when I did go outside and I did go to the store, there'd be like these people like I remember there was this couple and they had like trash bags on them, like with tape. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
like they tape like or not trash cans, trash bags.
Like trash
They
bags.
tape
Were they trying to lose
Yeah,
weight? Trying to make their
I
weight for a big fight on Saturday? What were they trying to
I don't
do?
know. And there was like this other couple where they had like the face shields, and then they had like it almost looked like a helmet that they had on the way they had it set up because they had like a towel or something that covered this, and then they had like two face masks, and then they had these really big gloves. I was like, well, why even come outside at that point? Like,
That's such a funny image because it's like they're creating this idea of germ armor, right? Like this armor will protect me from germs. I am a germ knight, right? Like
right. COVID won't get me.
there's a thing online if you look up like basically makeshift costumes or things that people wore during the pandemic. It's hilarious. But there's people like beekeeper helmets on.
Yes, yes. And it's all true. Like it's not an exaggeration. Like the steps
No.
that some people took to try to like stay away from it. And I get it. It was what it was. You know, COVID was, you know, a scary thing. But it's like if you went back 10 years ago and you just explain what was going to happen, it's just funny all the way around because it starts with, you know, the disease possibly being made in China, whatever. Then it
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
to
yeah.
USA. No one knows how to handle it at all. Like the president, nobody knows what to do. So it just gets horrible, really, really horrible. People dress up, and then there's a vaccine that's made that doesn't really help anybody. And
It
then, like
was
it just keeps on going, and then it's just done, and then out of nowhere it's done, and everyone moves on.
well the funny thing about that is like so in comedy there's a phrase, right? Like so time plus tragedy equals comedy. So like after
Yes,
enough time has passed of something really shitty happening, you're gonna find a way to laugh at it, and that's kind
right.
of like the rule for all things, really. And I carry that on my back because like the pandemic was especially strange for me because I was lucky that I got a work from home job before the pandemic. I wanted to take it on the road with me, right? So that was like my thinking. I was like, oh, people can work from home. And then the pandemic happened and I was like, I'm Gucci. All right, perfect, right? And I do believe people will look back at the pandemic times as like the way we look back on The Office. Like, oh, that was such a satire of its time. Like the
Yeah,
pandemic was a gigantic satire. And
it
it's
was.
it's really funny seeing like people like really going to war for things they know nothing about on all
and that's
sides,
and
and
that's
it was
that was
so funny.
exactly it. It was just perfect because, like I said, you know, with the vaccine or with the overtime and everything, it's just so many people formed so many fucking opinions, and then there was just me. I was going to the gas station to fill up on some really cheap gas and just drive for no reason so that I can come back and just spend like that was like my addiction during the pandemic was literally going to a gas station, paying like $20 to fill my whole gas tank, and then just driving aimlessly to come back and do it again. That was literally like my biggest hobby then. And it was nice just being away from people, you know, getting to like because some people got to benefit from the pandemic. Like if you invested in the right stocks, you did the right things and everything. It was good stuff. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I know a lot of people died. I know everything happened, but it was a
The
time.
way
It was
you
a
just
time to be
said that,
alive.
I know that people die. Like,
But it was
listen,
it was a time to be alive, man.
there was people passing out in the street. I know.
There was people out there in full hazmat suits and like
Like it's very interesting because like even like the people that capitalized during the pandemic, I don't know how great that is, right? I'm not sure how great at the end of the day, years from now, how people are going to fully feel about that, right? Like I was part of a company that did really well during the pandemic, and the moment it was going not so well, a lot of people lost their jobs, and that was just a reality, not
Yeah.
just for my company, but companies across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at Spectrum, and they kind of the same thing happened. Like
Yep.
they benefited and thrived through COVID, but once that beneficial period ended, and the stock got cut in half again, and and then they got sued because some guy decided to go kill an old lady, and then they covered it
Oh
up,
no.
and Spectrum was madness. All out of no, it just like one day it was perfect, and then the next day it was like World War III, and the job just got really, really bad and just declined and declined and declined and declined.
Yeah,
But
I can imagine. Like the human part of me is like, oh man, that sucks. I think you're gonna look back on that and regret. I don't think you're gonna feel good about letting those people lose their jobs where you could have probably kept them to some degree, right? That's the human part of me. The
yeah,
other part of me that like can reduce things to some context, right? Context of the times,
yeah,
context to conversations that may happen behind closed doors, things that we don't know, all that kind of stuff. I try to reserve judgment a little bit because I don't want to think that the people that are making these decisions are just reckless. I don't want to believe that,
right.
right? I
They're
want to
they're, they're in their
believe
positions for a reason.
I
Yeah,
have friends that still work for those companies, and like I want them to thrive in those environments. I want them to be able to be promoted, to be able to have their skills seen, for to be able to grow, to be able to lead. I think that shit's amazing.
right,
And so it's like obviously this big the layoffs that happened in 2022 were so impactful, but I also look back and I'm like, hey, I didn't really capitalize during the pandemic. I didn't I more so went the opposite direction. Like I was going through a divorce, I couldn't do stand up, so the thing I loved the most in the world was just like taken away,
right,
right? And so I shifted to going, I'm going back to school. That's what my experience at like anyone looking this up can see who I work for. So I'll just be blunt. It's Shopify, but like my experience at Shopify, uh, I was a pure education. I was learning things I would have never learned otherwise, like how to be resourceful, how to have difficult conversations, how to come like basically find an answer when no one knows the answer, and that skill
right.
set set me up for success, bro. Like I'm now set, I'm working really hard on building my own business. It's been almost a year. It's been tough as shit. But if I didn't have all those conversations with those entrepreneurs during the pandemic, like seeing firsthand shops going under, people moving all their inventory to their kitchen tables, trying to figure out how to go online when they've been in business 40 years and have never touched an online store, let alone
Right.
they didn't even buy a vibrator off of Amazon. They don't know shit.
Dude, or like literally ordering a fucking martini kit from fucking Applebee's.
You got it, right? Like everything. Do they do that in America? You get a
uh,
martinis kit from Applebee's?
dude, it was my birthday, and I normally always spent it at Applebee's, so I wanted to go to Applebee's, but it was like they were only doing delivery orders because of the pandemic. So,
Oh
or like
wow.
pickup orders. So I went and I was like, well, hey, are you guys doing anything alcohol related? And they were like, yeah, we got martini kits, and they had some other kind of drink kits. And I was just like, yeah, I'll take one of those. I'll absolutely take one of
That's so funny. Like we never thought like people would be mailing like delivering martini kits, right? Like and this is okay, here's a true story. During the pandemic, someone that I was worked with, like we were homies, and I won't say like who they were or anything like that, but they would send me hot sauce in the mail, and on the bottom of that hot sauce was acid taped underneath, like tabs of acid, LSD, and on the
Yeah.
bottom of hot sauce. So like these male people, like for the Canada Post, are probably like, "Oh man, this guy loves hot sauce." Right? Because during the pandemic, I was getting a few jars of hot sauce,
Oh my
because
god.
and I never touched this beforehand or anything. But like I was listening to so many podcasts and stuff, I was like, well, if there was any time to try psychedelics, I feel like the
Yes.
pandemic's it.
So
For me,
what was your experience like?
I've had a few different experiences now, and like I've with both LSD and shrooms. And funny enough, one of the craziest trips I ever had wasn't on LSD; it was on shrooms. And like, like, have you ever seen that Quaalude scene in Wolf of Wall Street? Where they start
Yes.
talking like this, they try to get to the car. Like,
Yeah, and he thought he was driving fucking perfectly, and then,
yeah.
and
So
then
that, like, I did like 4 Gs of shrooms, and that happened to me where I'm like on the ground talking to my cat. Like, you gotta learn English now. Get help. I can't. Oh no, I'm gonna die talking to a cat. Like,
no, yeah, I mean, like I think I tried acid like a little. Nah, I think it was during the pandemic. Yeah, and it was that I didn't have a crazy experience with shrooms. Like shrooms was like for me, it was like I became a simp for comfort. Like it was
hmm.
crazy. Like I just wanted to be comfortable, and once I got that comfort, like it was just like it was just it was the most beautiful feeling I've ever felt was on shrooms when I finally because I was so aggravated for like 30 minutes straight. You know how like a cat or no a dog. You know how a dog will like circle in a pillow and like scratch
Oh
at it, even
yeah,
though
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're not doing anything at all. That was like me in my bed. I was like tossing and turning, going in a circle, like just setting everything up and laying back down again. And then finally, once I reached that comfort, it was the most beautiful feeling I have ever felt. It
Dude,
was just it was
that
nice.
that can be very much the same on LSD though. So like I tell people, you
Yeah.
know what the best thing when like this is why when people are trying to vilify or put fear into drugs and they're like, oh, don't do LSD, it's bad, when they're trying to do that, I'm like, do you know what the greatest thing is when you're on LSD? The greatest thing, a breeze. You ever have a breeze? Like a good
I
breeze, a nice cool breeze.
I went out it's funny because right when it kicked in, like about an hour after we all decided we had two sober friends with us and they were going to drive us just to go on a
Okay.
drive and then come back. And then the moment we got outside, one of the scariest things happened, which was everything zoomed. Even though I was right behind everybody, everything zoomed out. So I was like,
Oh.
guys. But then all of a sudden, a wind came through. Exactly like you said, a breeze, like a wind. It was like winter. It started snowing, like, and then the wind came through, and I was just like, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe I should be alone. And all of a sudden, like one of my friends just grabbed me, and we just kept going.
Oh, I would be in my front lawn with my hands in the grass like this, and I'm feeling the breeze. And I'm just like saying that and I'll have a neighbor walk by and be like, Cliff, you okay? And I'd be like, I'm good. Like, you want to help me order chicken wings? I forget how to use a phone. You
Oh my
know,
god, yeah, phones were just crazy. Like
never look at a
like I
phone
said, I
when you're
only
on
took
that
acid
shit.
once. Only took acid once. That was a couple years ago during the pandemic, and I know I didn't really have like that comfortable experience. I just had like a it was just balls to the wall almost the whole way through. Like the first hour was bad. I was like confronted by all my demons and everything I hated about
Yeah, yeah,
myself and
yeah.
everything I hated about life. But once that was over, I think because my friend played some Hotel California video, some trippy Hotel California video, and that changed my whole trip into. And that's why it's my favorite song. Like it just changed my whole
Oh,
trip into one of the greatest things ever. Because all of a sudden, finally, everything started getting crazy and wavy, and my friend
yeah,
handed
yeah,
me
yeah.
shoes and they were like the size of this AirPod case and I was like I can't fit those. It was great. I
Well,
loved it. And then it was
I,
beautiful.
I have a bit of a theory, right? Like, I feel like every single day when we wake up, we have a lot of tasks and obligations and things that we want to do, don't want to do. There's a lot on our plates. But the core question I think everyone's constantly asking is, who am I? Right? Like, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I as a person? What do I stand for? Who am I to my neighbors, my
Yeah.
community? Who am I to my partner, my kids? Right? Like, this is really like kind of like the ongoing question. And I'm like, well, if you want to really get into that question, then you should consider psychedelics
Yeah.
because it's going to make you kind of go face to face with the worst part of the worst answers in that question. When you ask, who are you?
Exactly.
And you have to face the bad stuff, right? Like the
Yeah.
stuff that might be like, oh, that's a part of my past that felt really ugly. And I feel a lot of shame for that. You know
And
what
when
I
you
mean?
turn that bad part of the trip into a good part, you feel so strong because you know you could overcome all that stuff.
Well, not only that you can overcome it, but that the past doesn't have bearing on the present, right? Like you can
There you go.
choose to be better right now. Right now. You can
Yeah.
choose to go lift a
And
weight right
that's
now. Write a joke right now.
And
Right.
that's what it was. Like acid was just such a mind unlocking experience, which is why I only had to do it once because I got so much out. Like it was just such a mind opening experience. And then again, every time I've taken shrooms, I haven't really had the the like you said, like life, you kind of the realness of
Mhm.
everything. But it still unlocked my mind. It made me feel really free. It helps. Like this stuff helps.
It does depend on your dosage too. I tend to go with heroic dosages. So like I tend to be a big boy, right? So I dive in, but like I also have a higher tolerance on most things than most people. One thing I don't drink anymore. Like I'm California sober. So like I will partake in
Okay.
edibles. I agree with psychedelics. It's not like a thing I do often. The last time I did shrooms was the Super Bowl, and looking at Rihanna dressed as a lobster when you're on shrooms, what a party! You know what I mean? So like there's and like I was having a good time with some great people that night. But like what it came down to is I started like when I lost my family, when I was going through a divorce, and then I've inevitably lost my job, and all these things are making me ask that question. Like, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And that question is different. Like, other people will answer that question differently, right?
Oh yeah.
So you can only answer it for yourself. So for me, I had to come to like, well, I think who are you is answered by who do you want to be, right? I think if you
Yeah.
answer that question, then you just decide that's who you
Yeah.
are, right? I think that's kind of how
Exactly.
it has to work.
Yeah. That's fair. I
You
like
know,
that.
S- so like for me, I want to be I want to be a comedian that really delights audiences and makes them want to come back and enjoy and keep supporting comedy. But I also want to be a comedian that supports my community, that makes like comedy in Canada better. I have this big mission that I want to make sure every comedian in Canada has good groceries. That's my
Okay.
mission, man. I
I
you
like
gotta
that.
understand. For 14 years, I've been seeing people come into the mics. Anyone from any walk of life can come to the mic. They come from addiction, abuse, trauma, like being unemployed, being unhoused. We've seen it all. And I feel like when you have all these marginalized people that kind of find the same place the same way, they like to laugh and they want to make others laugh, I would like
Yeah.
to create more support systems there. I want to be the kind of person that helps those people get health benefits, that helps those people like heal from addiction or be able to get the help they need to heal from addiction. Being able to help comedians with ADHD apply for grants. Like stuff like that I don't think a lot of people are taking in
I love that.
consideration. That's
Yeah.
the man I want to be. I want to see my son looking up to his dad who's standing up for his community, standing up for like the people that he fights for. And that like hopefully my little guy can be that passionate about something one day too. I don't know what it is. I don't care what it is. I just hope that whatever it is, he's going to put himself 100% into. Well, this is the part of the show where I just talk to Thomas's chair. So, Thomas's chair, what is it like holding Thomas's butt? It looks like a little butt, not a big badonk, right? I don't think he's packing cake in there, but he's definitely, a little slim and slender. I can't imagine he's too odorous. Maybe a slight musk of hamburger helper from last night's late night excursions, whatever he gets up to. We already know that he goes on long country drives on LSD. So we're learning a lot about him today, and I think that we're all going to really benefit from hearing directly from the chair what it's like being so close to Thomas's butt all the time. So I hand it over to the chair. Oh, I don't really like it that much, to be honest. I wasn't really expecting this question. I, to be honest, it's not a hamburger. Oh, he's back. Okay,
You
hey.
had a good conversation with my chair.
Did you hear that? Like I just.
In on that, what we want to be part and who we are. And I think it's huge because, yeah, I know we were getting this from psychedelics. Like it's crazy that psychedelics leads us to this
It definitely
conversation,
helped
but there's a lot of
facilitate
truth
that.
in
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, for me, it's like, I think we're kind of similar. I mean, I don't want to be a comedian. Well, I don't know if I want to be a comedian yet. That could be something that's like a hidden passion of mine that I don't know about yet. But I'm huge on like, I want to laugh. I want to make other people laugh. Like that's literally me. And I see that through my daughter, which is the beautiful thing. Like her main thing, like literally all day is to just like walk around and try to like make me laugh or make me happy. And it's like, I love that because that's
Yeah.
what I truly want to be. And I get to see that through her. And on that question, like, what do you want to be? It's a huge question in life that I really wish like more people kind of gravitated towards figuring out, which is, I didn't know that acid was going to do that for me, but I found out a lot about myself through acid, and it's just a crazy sentence to say, but
Yeah. Well, and to be
yeah,
honest, being able to reflect on it as a parent too, you have to realize that one day your little girl's going to be asking herself that same question. Right.
right,
And so, like, when we're looking at self reflection, when we're looking at like actualization or whatever you want to call this stuff, right? Like, just becoming the person you want to be, like, you kind of have to reverse engineer it a bit and be able to, like, really understand the experience you went through. So, like, you asked me, like, what got me into comedy? Like, what initially got me into comedy was brokenness. Right? Like
right,
shit wasn't working out. I didn't know what to do. I've always been funny and I headed to a stage. It was aimlessness. It was like just this sense of wanting to belong, wanting to connect, and then quickly, oh, this attention feels nice.
right,
Oh, I'm the only voice in the room, and then like. That was actually probably when I started really discovering like me, who I thought was a pretty humble person, who I thought was kind of gracious, was actually quite egotistical, kind of full of myself. There was points in my early career I would walk into the room with bravado. Like everyone was there to see me. If I was hosting a show, all the other comics were commercial breaks, and I feel like this air that I had about me really created resentment in some peers. You know what I mean? It created rifts with people that I genuinely really like and wanted to work with, and that kind of uncomfortableness was so necessary for where I am right now,
right,
right? Like if I didn't go through all that and wasn't able to look back on it, reflect on it, and now be different going forward, I wouldn't have known what to do. And I'm so much more clear because I know how to look back and walk through. So like going back to what you're saying about your daughter, when she's hitting that wall, like, she's 19 years old and she's just like, I don't know who I am, what I stand for, what I'm going to do, if I'm going to go to school, what I'm going to do for a
like
job,
give her
who I'm going
acid.
to date, right? Like I don't know anything. And then you can go back, you can go to her and be like, let me tell you when I also didn't know a goddamn thing. And let
Right.
me tell you how uncomfortable that was and what that looked like.
Yeah. And like for me, because my parents, like, love my parents, but they weren't like, they weren't wealthy, they weren't really, like life people. They just chilled and raised me and my sister and just existed. And like, not knowing what you want to do or not knowing too much about the earth has been such a beautiful experience getting to know now rather than at a younger age.
Mm.
Because like now, like it's even something as simple as like car insurance. Like I didn't know a goddamn thing about car insurance until I had like a $900 bill of a lapse in policy that I had. I was like, what the fuck? But
Bro.
it's beautiful. Like not knowing what you want to do in life, and for the people out there that really don't know what they want to do it with your life, it's beautiful because you're gonna try a whole bunch of things. You're gonna try a whole bunch of things. You're gonna see a lot of people. You're gonna do uncomfortable things. You're gonna do comfortable things. I love that I didn't really know what I want to do, and I still can't really tell you what the fuck I want to do in life besides, just I'm starting to figure it out. Like now I got a podcast. I'm
I
entertaining
was gonna
people,
say
but
you're following the
it can
crumbs.
be beautiful.
Yeah,
It can
it
be
is
beautiful when you don't know
beautiful.
what you want to do.
No, it absolutely is. Like I think it's a really important message. Like actually, like what you're saying in the middle there about try a bunch of things. Like I think so many people think, oh, the thing I'm trying is the thing that's going to be, and if it's not going to be, then I failed.
Right.
And it's like sometimes things have a different shelf life than what you think, and very rarely
Right.
do outcomes meet our expectations. I actually have never seen that happen. Right? Like maybe if you're a dart player,
Ever.
you know how to hit the middle. So you know what I mean? Like
Right.
even then, sometimes you miss it. But like in my experience, like I think there was one point where I was like, oh yeah, I wanna be the next Chris Farley. That's it. I want to run in and smash tables and yell, and it's going to be a real fun time. And then, and that didn't really work out. And then I was like, okay, then what if I did this? I'm going to be the next best Survivor player you ever seen. I'm going to be a Russell Hantz dressed as a Rupert. Goddamn, let's go, right? Like, and then it's like, oh no, Cliff, you're out of your mind. What you want about? And then it's like, now I'm building a business. Oh, okay, what are you trying to be, Steve Jobs in comedy, bro? Fuck off. Right? What are you doing, right? And what I realized is like, well, comedy taught me how to be uncomfortable in a immediate feedback environment, and Survivor taught me how to gamify struggle, how to have difficult conversations and connect to people who don't want the same thing as you. It
And
taught me, yeah,
to give a little bit of context real quick, my
for
apologies
sure.
for cutting you off, Cliff. But Survivor. So Survivor is a game. Well, it's a real life thing where, they'd send
real
like
life show.
16, 18, 20 people out onto an island. They have to not only survive the nature, not eating and not drinking, as much as they, comfortable cold water that they would normally drink at home.
Yeah, they get all their comforts taken away.
Also, yeah, and then also at the same time, it's actual relationships with people, because you're stuck with these people. You have to build with them, but also you have to vote them out. You have to rob them from $1 million.
And they're the people that vote for you to win the $1 million.
Yeah, and then at the end, it's like a sick twist where all the people that you said, no, you don't deserve $1 million, now they're trying to tell you if you deserve $1 million. So what me and Clifford did is we played this game online in a beautiful community. And that's kind of how we got to know each other. But yeah, no, Survivor is like actually playing it online and actually having to deal with people's, other people's emotions.
Strangers, people you didn't know. Yeah.
Right. Dropping your ego so that you can deal with people. Like, it helped me. Yeah, it definitely helped me, deal with people. And that's the beauty of Survivor. I love Survivor.
And that's the thing. We're playing like this online, version of this much more difficult experience. But I think we got a lot of the same life lessons because of the mechanism where only one person can win. Right? Yeah. So life isn't like that. Life isn't zero sum. Life is positive sum. You and I can both win. But in Survivor, you and I don't get to both win. Right? Yeah. And so people change. People change when they're in those situations. And what I learned from that is, in life, when someone has a scarcity mindset and they don't believe that there's room for everyone at the table, they will default to zero-sum thinking. And that zero-sum thinking will make them basically like exhibit bad behavior, right? They'll do things that they won't even be proud of themselves. Right? Like, we see it all the time. People do things for their advantage that just kind of hurt their character, hurt their standing with their community, that kind of shit. We see it all the time. And my whole movement into creating the Other Comedy Company was this idea that I don't think we need to be educated more on how to write an essay or how to, do this kind of math equation per se, especially with AI. That's going to help us a lot there.
Would you believe me if I told you I failed English class once?
For sure.
Like the only class I ever failed in high school was English class.
Really? I failed science, and like the education system's not equipped to actually to touch what makes people, right? We don't learn about, we don't practically learn about emotional intelligence in schools. We don't learn how to be comfortable, how to accept opinions that are different than ours.
Which is so crazy, but I get it. Because we need the reason why I like school the way it is. I mean, I don't like it. I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm a fan of public education, because I'm not. I think they teach a lot of bullshit, but the reason why I like it is because, what it does is that the world does need those brainless people. Like, that's not a lie. Like, the world needs, and I don't mean brainless as an insult. I mean brainless as in the people that actually go to work, brainlessly, and they can do the 9 to 5, week after week, and actually supply what each and every community needs. Like, the basic fast food, the stores that we have. Like, we actually need those people. So I like that, when people go to school, they learn that. But then there's also the other side of it, of the people that break out of that. And, the people that, come up with so many beautiful ideas.
So this is fun, because I do disagree to a degree, but I want to explain
for sure.
what I disagree with. And like, basically, like, the factory farm situation that we have in schools initially, like if you look at photos in the 1920s, all the kids sitting facing forward, right? Like stay in the
Right.
same direction. It actually doesn't take into consideration the psychology of learning. And the
Right.
psychology of learning is really environment based, right? Like building your environment. And the thing is we all have different personality types. So there's like a thing online that you can look up called enneagrams. And enneagrams are ways of basically breaking down people into between 1 to 8 personality types. And
Okay.
so if you have eight, so let's just say that's like the way it is for now, right? Let's just use it as an example that there's 8 personality types. Well, 8 personality types in one kind of environment doesn't work because you're like technically would need 8 different environments for 8 different personality types to be able to make them thrive, or one environment that is built for all 8 personality types. Right?
Right.
So you have a round circle in the middle for the collaborators and the leaders, but the people that are more introverted have sound canceling headphones in a private space or a booth to go away. Some people have more of a tactile station where they get to use their hands and problem solve, right? Like we don't actually build this way. We don't build
Right.
education systems this way. What I'm trying to do, which is coming in from the side sort of thing, is I'm doing this in the corporate training where we're trying to teach people how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, how to be more curious, ask better questions, like these kind of things that really aren't taught in those environments. Am I saying that the school system as it is a complete flop? Absolutely not. But I also just went on a reptile zoo trip with my kid, and I didn't learn a fucking thing. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like one of those things where I'm saying is there significant room for improvement that would make a huge impact on
Yeah.
future kids and future
But
generations. I really believe that.
at the same time, that's why I believe, like, do I, again, like, do I agree with public schooling the way it is now? Absolutely not. I think it absolutely should be beautiful and better, but the fact that it's not, it leads to people like you, Clifford, that come up
Well,
with the beautiful ideas, like the one that you have and that you're currently, putting a lot into. And that's the beauty of it. And then the people that don't, necessarily have that, I don't want to really necessarily, they don't have that creativity, but they don't want to use that creativity that's brewing inside of them. They
or
contribute to the world.
or they're going to use it for something different per se, right? Like one of the things that like we have to understand is the power of dissatisfaction. All great things happen from being dissatisfied, right?
Exactly.
Like I can't get
Exactly.
across this river. Oh, I just came up with a bridge, right? Like that's literally like
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. So like obviously where I'm coming from is a place of dissatisfaction in the education system. I'm dissatisfied for a lot of reasons because I think it sucks that people can't get jobs because they don't know how to read. And the thing I don't agree with brainless because I even think no matter what your
Yeah,
position
that was a
is.
little extreme. My
No,
apologies.
that's okay. Bro, no. I understood what you meant by it, though, right? You need people to do the jobs with AI and with robotics. I do think job elimination will be kind of strategic in a sense that people will be left to more creative roles, more things that AI can't do, can't accomplish, right? More people to people roles, more like engineering type roles, and that kind of stuff. If everyone's getting kind of siphoned into different categories, I actually think that gives a lot of freedom for personal expression, creativity outside of your work, creativity outside of, yeah, simply what you're doing. And like we can create better systems to empower those people. So if you're in fast food, maybe there's a bursary system in place that like, you're around for a certain amount of time and then you get a $2,000 kickback to put into your interest or your lifestyle or, that kind of thing. So you can reinvest in yourself individually. That's why I actually pay comedians so high. Like when I do my corporate products, I give them quite a large percentage of it. And the reason why is because that's an opportunity they get right there to reinvest in themselves. So you hand
Right.
over $600, $1,500 to a comedian, that's new podcast equipment. That's a good groceries to get their mind right, help them get to their sobriety. Whatever it is, pay off a bill that's just been at you for 4 months. And like I don't think we have systems like that. I don't think we really have people necessarily advocating for that either internally. I think anyone that cares about that is people affected by the system, not people in control of it, right? And so where I
Yeah.
come in is I think it's really important to have conversations like this, that we just talk about it. I think this is the starting
Right.
point. where we literally just let's talk about the issues in a real way and then have smarter people listening come up with better answers.
There you
Right?
go.
Because I
Yeah.
know I don't have the answers. I fucking know. I've been at this for 11 months. I know. I do not know the answers.
But
Right?
someone will give you the answers.
But I know the importance of doing the work, of going for it, for trying. The thing is like the one thing you're going to learn, anyone that's at all interested in getting involved in stand-up comedy, I muscle through it, because if you do, you will learn resilience and grit like nothing. Like nothing. Nothing's going to teach you grit like stand-up comedy. Like maybe the military, but then like you got to do the whole killing someone thing, and I don't know if you want to do
Being a
that.
door-to-door, listen, I would argue being a door-to-door salesman is up there on that
Door-to-door
grit.
salesman? Do those still exist?
I
If
am
someone
one.
showed up to my door right now, I'd be like, I didn't order skip the dishes. The fuck's your problem?
No, dude, that's me. Like this, like I'm a door-to-door salesman. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you can just like have a LinkedIn bot and reach out to people, right? Like, what do you want about?
No, I mean it's fun though. I like it. Like you get your old people that are like, nah, get away from me. Or you got the
Of
people
course.
that'll have like a 5-minute conversation about absolutely nothing. Like I walked up to this guy's house one day and talked about his garden gnome, and I somehow carried a 10-minute conversation about gardening. Just for him at the end to tell me he wasn't interested in what I was there for, and then just left. I was like,
So
okay, well,
I've done door-to-door salesman stuff, and like, here's the thing. I was selling Bibles. I was literally a Bible door-to-door salesman, and I did it for a very short period of time. But the audacity, right? Like the audacity to go to someone's door and be like, "Not sure if you belong to this religion yet, but you slowly raise the Bible."
Edition.
This NIV version of the Bible. New international version. You are gonna love it. None of that King James bullshit from the past. Right? Like, goddamn. I was an Avon lady for a little bit too. Like, I'm not sure if you have that in America. Like, it's like
no, because my sister was an Avon.
I know, like, I'm pretty sure I could have said I was an Avon guy, but I just love saying Avon lady because that's just what I called that role. And whenever people would ask me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm having I remember I threw a Tupperware party in this like really dank basement I lived in. So
Tupperware party?
I threw this Tupperware. No, so they had like, it wasn't just Tupperware. They had some jewelry and throws and stuff like that. But I was really going for the Tupperware because it was a better price kind of situation.
Yeah.
And so I was in this like dank ass basement. Like, you had to duck in. You went in through the garage, and it was me and 6 old Portuguese ladies, just like in my room, my bedroom. I had it like on the bed, like the Tupperware on the bed. Like, that's how bonkers like my sales experience was. And I am not a good salesperson. Like, I cannot manage to sell Tupperware to Portuguese women in my bedroom. So like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying, bro?
A Tupperware party with 6 Portuguese women with Tupperware on your bed. That is one of the
Dude, that's why I think the work we do is some of the funniest shit in the world, right? Like, I was a mall Easter bunny. I worked in group homes. I used to wipe asses and take punches. Like, I've kind of done it all, bro. Like, and having a varied life experience makes me way happier than specializing, sticking to one thing, and then just being real good at that one thing. I'm really happy that I'm a little bit more fragmented in my life.
Yeah, and that's kind of what keeps, my happiness going, because like, for example, at my old job that I was there for like 3 years, by that 3rd year, I was just so miserable. I was so just like, I don't want to be here and everything, but I was pretty good at it. I was really good at it. Like, if I would have stuck with it, gotten out of my feelings, been inhuman, I would have probably really thrived and climbed up the ladder there. But it's like, I love doing a whole bunch of different things and exploring my talents and everything. Like right now, I'm a fucking I'm a door-to-door salesman selling fucking solar and trying to get these fuckers to at least sit down with my expert for 20 minutes. And
Do
then
it, yeah.
I got like a financial business and I'm running this podcast. I'm having fun. I want to
You're
have it any
doing the
other way.
things. You're doing the things, bro. And that's the thing. Like I said it earlier, that you're following crumbs, right? Like sometimes
Yeah.
like we leave a little trail for ourselves to follow, and then we're like, okay, what's this? I'm gonna go into the forest and see where we go here. And that's the thing. If you're going into the unclear path, I think things become significantly more clear. Like I honestly think,
Yeah.
like, because you create the clearing.
You learn a lot. You
Yeah.
learn a lot by going on that unclear path.
Oh,
Like,
dude, and like, it's funny that you're doing like all these things, because like, when I look back, I'm like, okay, what if? Like once upon a time, so like, I'm not sure if I mentioned this at the beginning, but my very first, what I was trying to do was I went to Bible college to be a pastor. Okay.
okay.
And I got
Okay.
expelled for running around naked. Okay. So let's,
What?
so we're gonna get that out of the way. All right. Now you know.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And then
I'll
I
drink to that.
talked my way back in, and like I went through an appeal process. In the next semester, I reattended that school, and that's where I met the woman that eventually became my wife, who eventually became the mother of my child. Right. And like
So you ran
yeah.
around naked in a
Yep.
Bible school and they still let your ass back?
Yeah. That was my first time playing Survivor, was having that conversation. I literally talked my way back into the school. I have a witness too.
To fame.
I
That would
have a
literally
witness.
be my claim to fame. I would sit there and tell everyone, yeah, I went to Bible school and I got naked, got kicked out, but I talked my way back.
Well, so the dude I got expelled with, he's beside me. He shows up in a full suit. He's got the tie, the collar shirt. I show up in bright red gym shorts and an MXPX t-shirt. And I'm like, oh, were we supposed to dress up for this? He's like, Cliff, we're talking our way back into school. Like, what's your problem right now? Right? Like, and I was like, I don't own things. Like, I moved all my stuff in a grocery cart. Like, what do you want about? So we're like bickering. We go in there, and there's this board of stoic ancient men, right? Like Christian scholars. How dare you defecate on the cross of our Lord, right? Like they were real mad about it, and they did not like dicks to the wind, and I get it. Okay, so we're having this conversation. It's going nowhere. And at one point, I mentioned, I was like, I felt it was slightly disproportionate in ultimately when the school's mandate and the religion's mandate is forgiveness, right? And like I was having a hard time with that messaging, and I was like, my father cut off child support because this gave him a loophole. And I think that's really shitty to have these added consequences on for something that I believe is in my control, believe I can be redemptive for, and something I think I can turn around. Like I actually I have a willingness to want to like be not as much of
not be naked.
Not be such a shithead, right? Like let me try not to be a shithead. I was 19. Let me try to be. It took me years to not be a shithead. I'm still like kind of brushing it off a bit, but like, And so it's like, give me that chance. And this one guy, he was like, he just started shaking his head. It was a sore point for him. This idea of, and I don't want to call my father a deadbeat father. He used those words, that the guy I was talking to. Like I guess he experienced a deadbeat father. I wouldn't say that about my dad. I'd say that was a moment of conflict, but I wouldn't call him that, right? So, but I hit a nerve. I hit a nerve in that conversation. And he saw that like there was just this guy being left to drown and like earnestly wanted to figure it out. So I got that second chance. And I ended up leaving on my own accord about a year and a half later, but like still like, for me at that point in my life, my reputation in my community was completely tarnished. That was the first time that happened and not the last, right? And so it's one of those things where like I don't know how much, and this may be getting too hippy dippy for your audience, but like sometimes like when you're the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, right? If you put some trust into it, I kind of believe I was being primed early for being able to take on big challenges later on in life. I think I grew up kind of fast from that whole experience, and it kind of taught me to look at people differently. We're talking about Survivor. I'm not sure if you've seen this show yet, but there's a show on Netflix called Outlast. Okay?
Mm-mm. Yeah.
So, it's Survivor on bath salts. All right. So basically, they put people in the Alaskan wilderness. The only rule is that you have to win in a team, but then there's no rules. And the whole thing goes to Lord of the Flies shit. Like, people are sabotaging, taking sleeping bags and make people try to freeze overnight. It's insane. And then they're coming out afterwards, and like some two contestants are being very vilified for their behavior on there. And everyone's like, how could you do that? How could you be evil? And it's a game with no rules, right? So it's like
Right.
asking a gladiator that goes in the Roman Colosseum, how dare you kill your opponent, right?
Right.
It's an interesting conversation. But for me, I see those two people as people that have a lot that wasn't seen in the edit. People that we don't see any of their regrets, any of their chances of like seeking forgiveness, their self-reflection. We don't get to see the full person, and we don't get to be in anyone else's experience. That show's a really good example of that, because I can empathize for the worst people in that show. I can look
Right.
at the worst people and go, no, 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 they're capable people. They're being fierce and scary apex predators in a game that was very much predator and prey. And it's
Yeah.
scary to witness that when you're looking at other people. But if you view it as an education and not as just another part of your entertainment rotation, you might actually learn something about people if you kind of see it from their perspective.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing with shows like Survivor and like the show that you just mentioned, Outlast. The biggest thing that I got out of those is just learning how people's personalities work.
Yeah, well,
It's
those are the first
dude,
Survivor was like the first show that showed us what emotional intelligence looked like in action, right? Like,
right.
we could see someone persuade in real time. We could see someone deflect attention in real time. Like, literally, like these things that require internal skills. We would
Yeah.
watch it, and it wasn't until the seasons of like in the 30s, like in the like until they were like over 30 seasons in, that the words emotional intelligence were even mentioned on Survivor, because no one
Right.
knew what the fuck to call that thing. It
Exactly.
it was all invisible to us until enough people started, in that field, started dissecting it and kind of showing what it is. Now it's a bit of a buzzword, but the thing is like, for me, emotional intelligence, I think what people are not understanding is that it can't be taught in the way that our system is. It can be taught on Survivor
That's a good tie back. Yes.
because you're in this instant feedback environment, right, with real consequences. You can do it in comedy, right? Like, anything that is a safe place to be unsafe in, right? Like, those situations is actually how you learn emotional intelligence. You learn emotional intelligence by embracing being uncomfortable. That is how you learn. And you make
Right.
real mistakes in real time and have to accept that in real time. And like that, I think we are so comfortable, Tom. Like, we're so comfortable that we are afraid to really just go, oh, my life, my personality, my relationships, all of that would be better if I just had the wherewithal to accept that things don't get to be comfortable all the time.
Yeah. And that was honestly a big difference, in my life and that I've seen in many people's lives is that until people, fully understand that, it's literally two different lives that you live because before, being ignorant to that, just not really believing in anything emotionally, like just not necessarily not believing in emotional intelligence, but not really digging too deep into it. But it's beautiful when you finally do. It's
Yeah.
beautiful when you finally dig into your own emotional intelligence. You get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You put yourself in situations that, 2 or 3 years ago, that you would never have even thought about putting yourself into that situation. And it's good to see the final product of what you get out of that and the knowledge that you gain because, for me, following that straight line, because I was smart as hell in high school, following that straight line and, going into college and everything, college was the first, I think, real experience in life where I just didn't want to do that shit anymore.
Yeah.
I wanted to just go venture out and be my own person, and that's basically what I got out of college, which is why I'll never really shit on the experience that I had in college. Is
Yeah, for
that
sure.
that's what it really it kind of it put me front and center with my own emotional intelligence and how my emotions really worked, and got me asking myself those uncomfortable questions.
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, that's what life is all about. And it sucks that some human beings don't get that until it's like, they retire from that job that they had for 30 years, and they're like 50 now, and they're going through their big life journey. I'm so glad that I get to go through this life journey at the age of 24 rather than 54.
Well, and now you get to attach some hope on that for your daughter, because I bet you she's gonna
Exactly.
learn it way younger.
And
Like,
that's why I made that point where I agree with public schooling to a certain extent, because if it's up to me, I don't want her attending public school. I'd rather have her go to either private school or be homeschooled.
yeah,
Just because, like, I want to teach her all this stuff, and I know she won't get taught an actual regular the way it is public school. I know there's going to be changes over time because
mm.
more human beings are feeling this way, that school needs to be something more beautiful, because learning is beautiful. And that's what I don't like
Yeah,
about public schools, is that, like, they make learning a disgusting, gross thing. Like,
laborious.
they make kids like
My
they
kid
make kids
hates it.
not want to go to school. Yeah.
My
And
kid
like
hates it.
that,
Yeah,
and that's how I felt, and I'm glad I felt that when I was going to school. Like, I felt like learning should be just so much more, not only more, but just beautiful. Like, learning should be a good, fun thing, because when you go to the real life, the biggest thing that you need to have is, you need to be a student of the game. Whatever game that you're playing, you need to be
yeah.
able to learn and want to learn. But we get that taken away from us at such a young age, that it's kind of that's why you don't see so many success stories of people that kind of ventured off the path, because the path and the way it is, it takes all the fun and everything out of learning.
I love that perspective that learning should be beautiful. Like, I honestly think if we all had that perspective, we'd be looking at this so much different. It wouldn't be about making them learn so that way they exhibit civil obedience, right? Like, which I very much
Right.
believe is the overarching theme of a lot of educational systems. But that's neither here nor there. Where what I think is what you talked about, like, being you want to be a student of the game you're playing, is that, like,
Right.
well, in order to be a student of the game you're playing, you need to know which game you want to play. You need to have options. You need
Exactly.
to have a variety of experiences that lets your soul speak for itself. Like, you kind of need that, and we don't provide it. So that to me is
Right.
where I'm like, I feel like I agree with you so much that learning should be beautiful, and that's kind of like why I love comedy, man. Because, like, in comedy, like in improv, there's a few mantras, right? Like, you're familiar with, like, yes and, right? You say yes to someone and then you add to them. It's a great life philosophy. It's like, say yes to the opportunities that come and put your best foot forward to make it happen. Like, that's a great philosophy. But one of the ones that's not talked about often is that there is no mistakes. Like, so when you're
Yeah.
doing improv, you actually just have to believe in that reality, that there's no mistakes. Even when you clearly have made a mistake, you said the wrong thing, you flubbed the joke, you made your scene harder for your partner, you weren't there as a team. Like, yeah, that's going to happen. But when you're in the mindset that there's no mistakes, everyone instantly forgives. Everyone instantly is assuming positive intent. And that's just
Right.
not a thing that we see regularly. And I see it in comedy every time I watch it.
Yeah, and that was a huge, huge life lesson as well, was the looking at mistakes differently. And my friend, Kem, who's also a part of the podcast group that we have,
What's up?
he said it best. He said it best. He doesn't call mistakes mistakes. He just calls them experiences.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like, my biggest motto in life is, we the key to success is getting up one more time than you fall. Literally, that's all it is.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's an
yeah,
even
yeah.
number. We get down, we get back up. We get down, we get back up. We get down, we get back up. But the last time, you got to make sure it's getting back up, because you just need to do it one more time than you fall. And that's kind of
Well,
the biggest thing. And let me ask you a quick question.
yeah, yeah.
What are If you could pick, three things that all humans, aim for, like, as a collective, what are the three things we aim for in life? And money is not one of the answers.
No, money is not one of the answers. Honestly, like, I think the biggest answer is community. I think that we
Okay.
are our species Like I thrives off of a bit of tribalness, right? Like this idea of
Union.
tribes,
Yeah.
union. We learn from each other. Literally, like how you as a
We're always
nature
trying to
human.
build a team to do some shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're always trying. And the thing is like even what we're doing right now is a sense of community, right? Because we're opening ourselves up to each other to share parts of our lives, to share our ideas. We even disagreed quite maturely. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff people need to see, be a part of, be able to add to those conversations. I think community, the more you foster, really, and what I mean by fostering good community is not fostering like a quote unquote well behaved community like a church or an education board or something like that. I'm talking about a
Right.
community that accepts each other's mistakes and tries to create systems and resources to help people get through it. Right, like creating real support within each other. So to the other three things, like so community, and then I would attach education, right? Because like I just think the way we learn is it crazy to say that like of all the experience of all the human learning that we maybe just be at the tip of the iceberg now, like in 2023? Because like we just created AI systems that are going to create a super intelligence that beats all of us, and we made this thing, and but what will that do to us? It's going to leave us a lot of room to learn and grow differently. Like I honestly am telling you,
Yeah.
I don't think we've touched the tip of education, brother. Like I honestly,
I
the
was
way we
gonna
teach
say
each other
that
things.
like that's why I was gonna like disagree because I thought like what you were saying was that we've reached the tip of the iceberg, which
Oh no, we
I'm on
haven't.
the
We haven't.
yeah no
Yeah.
I'm on the side of you like we haven't even reached that tip yet because
Yeah, we're just
there's
not there
even
yet.
there's so many things that us little people don't even know about the world to begin with. That all the higher elites and all the the government officials and everything know about the countries and the world that we don't know. So that's a whole big other thing. And then you got space, you got the sea, and then like you said, the new scenario where we created AI to be smarter than us, not not understanding how that could affect us, but then in return we're gonna have to learn a whole lot more and how to advance our species and the evolution of us so that doesn't necessarily happen. AI takes over and all that good stuff.
Well,
But
we if we didn't use rocks and sticks as tools, we wouldn't have made fire, right?
exactly,
uh,
exactly.
humans do really well with tools. We're kind of killer at it, you know. So it's like
Right?
it,
We're pretty okay at it. Yeah.
we're pretty fantastic. Jesus was a carpenter for a reason, right? Like, like he knew. He just like, yeah, give me that saw, bro. I just realized he was a
Give me.
carpenter and he died on wood.
Nah,
That's
that's
weird.
that's gonna be a good quote. Give me that saw, bro, and then just use this.
Well, I just had that thought. I'm like, oh, Jesus was a carpenter and he died on two planks of wood. That's crazy. Like talk about being the author of your own story, that guy. But like, but
God was working a 9 to 5 that day on his own son.
what I want to like kind of clobber down on what you're saying is like, yes, like when you have like right now with like money and power dynamics and domain being what it is, right? A lot of people try to control tactics. It's really unfortunate, right? It's really unfortunate that we turn on our own, that humans hurt humans. It's the shittiest situation in the world. So that's why when I look at things like community education, and the third one I would give would be contribution, that we all want to be contributing meaningfully to what's within our skill set and what we can grow towards. I honestly think those are the three main drivers. And if we were to nurture those things, if we just nurtured community, just nurtured education, just nurtured contribution, I think we'd be in a better situation, not a worse situation. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
I love that. So your answer is a little bit different from mine, but you're gonna see the one similarity, which is why I asked this question hoping that there would be that one similarity, and we got it, and you'll see it, which is why I love. So my thing, my opinion on this, the three things that humans all look to do is one, feel love, like not necessarily give love or receive love, but actually feel love. Like we all want to feel love for something. Like we all want to, love another person, love what we're doing, love doing something, whatever it is. Second thing would be to see, and that's to see the world. I mean, not a lot, not an overwhelming amount of us want to travel, but we want to see. We want to see life. We want to see what that experience, that journey is. We just want to see. And the third thing is we want to know. We want to know and we want to learn, which is why, our one point of each of our things correlate is because it's learning. Like
Dude,
every
all
human
all
wants to
three
learn.
points coordinated. All 3 points coordinated because what do where do you think love comes from, bro? Communities build love. That's where you meet the
There you
person
go.
at the dance, where where you meet your new best friend.
That's fair.
Like that's literally what I'm talking about. How do you see things, right? Like you see things by learning about it, going forward, and contributing to the thing you want to go do. Like we're literally
Yeah.
like we're aligned right across the board, brother.
Yeah. And that's why, like, to tie it all the way back to the educational system, that's why I hate that we kind of, if there's one thing that we learn in school, it's we learn to hate education. I mean, obviously there's the
Yeah.
couple of us that end up really diving into the books and, be straight A student and I love this shit. I love learning. And but there's also those people that are dived into the books and get A pluses that absolutely hate that. They're just doing it because basically their parents have a gun to their head, not a literal gun to their head, but a figurative, gun to
Yeah,
their head.
yeah.
Like, you have to get a good education, or but that, and that's what I hate that, because
Those
again,
are
learning, if
those
I
are
didn't learn all
expectations,
the
right?
stuff that I've learned through life, I don't know. And now I love learning now because of everything that happened, and I wish that for more people.
Well, it's funny. When I'm performing stand up right now, have I been doing jokes about my experience at Shopify? I cannot confirm or deny. You'll have to come to a live show. But but what I will say about my time there is I learned how to learn. It was a skill that I didn't have up to that point in my life, is my early 30s. And so I went through a long time really not knowing how to teach myself things, not knowing how to be self reliant or resourceful. And I ended up, one of my last positions before I got the old boot was I was in a learning and development team for their fulfillment network. I was learning about supply chains, shit I know nothing about. I was learning about learning modules and like all these different ways and theories to do corporate training and all this kind of stuff. I didn't have any education in it. Most of the people on my team had their bachelor's or master's in something, and I was just this, right? And the
Yeah.
funny thing is like I was a great member of that team because of how different I was, right? Like they found me very refreshing, up to the point until they fired me, and then they were like, "Oh, we're done with this refreshment. We're okay." But like the funniest thing too, I gotta share the story with you, bro. I think you'll love it because like so. Just like this is how I got fired. When you work from home, you're gonna get fired from home, and I'm in my underwear, right? So I'm sitting here like this. I think I'm going to a sales meeting. So like I put on my best boxer briefs that day, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And then I end up in a meeting like this, and there's two people about to tell me that you don't get to work here anymore. And there's this weird lingering moment of where like, do you have any questions, anything you say, that kind of thing, like it's not like quite like Moneyball where like just give you the contract and tell you to go to the other baseball team, but it's not like that. So they gave me some time to talk, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna say. I'm leaving respectfully. I'm not gonna have a big fight about this or nothing, right? But I have been here for 3 years, and you know how much I love Survivor. And this was your opportunity to literally vote me out with a piece of parchment, and you did not do that? Do you know how much you could have surprised and delighted my soul? I would have told everyone that until the cows came home that I got voted at a Shopify. That would have made me so internally happy.
No, I
Right?
would love to get fired like that. I'm not gonna lie.
No, and so here's a crazy concept. Can you delight someone that you're giving bad news to? Right? Like that, like for me, they couldn't get away with that with anyone, and I'm sure someone would complain. I would have found that very funny.
Right.
I would have loved that. I would have been talking about that to everyone, because like it's something like that that's like, oh man, I don't get to work for you anymore, but you saw who I was. And a lot of
Right.
the complaints for these big companies is you're just a number, you're just a cog, you're just used and discarded, and that's valid. People feel that way. I have felt that way, right? But I'm trying to look for the deeper things. That's what you do as a comedian, as jokes. You try to dig in and you corkscrew into a thing. And I found the whole situation funny. Just the thought that the person firing me could have also been in her underwear, right? Like
Right.
we were just two people in underwear, one person doing their job and the other losing his. Like, is that what just happened? What just happened? Like, no, you know what? If I went back to the 1960s and explained that a woman from America fired me over a video box, they'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Right? And
Oh
like
my
they'd be like,
god.
"That makes no sense." And that's what I'm saying. If times change drastically, people adapt to the times. If we have an open mind about things aren't black and white, they're most likely gray. Things are most likely not this or that. It's usually somewhere in the middle, right? Like, if we can just become a more nuanced society, I think we can accept each other a little bit better. If we accept each other a little bit better, I think I think this thing becomes a little gravy. I think we start like evening out a little bit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I absolutely agree, man. I mean, unfortunately, we won't get that, just because you know the way the media is. Media has a nice little grip over
The media is too
humanity,
busy playing
which sucks.
Survivor and they're shit at it.
Shit. But
They're
at the
shit
same
at it.
time, they do. I think they do well with the people that kind of buy into it, which sucks.
That sucks.
Because like it's constant division. I see why the media does what they do. It's shitty and it sucks, but they keep everyone divided so that not everyone comes together and realize how bullshit everything is.
Yeah.
Like that, I
Well,
think like that's like the biggest like goal for them is just to make sure nobody sees how much bullshit they're actually bullshitting with.
it
But
feels very weak, right? Because it's like, how scared are you? Lately, especially like something like a publication like the New York Times. You're like this
right,
mega monolith that so many people respect. Why wouldn't you do due diligence and just ride off of being a respected institution? It just seems like going through exploitation strategies is beneath you. You know what I mean? Like, I
right,
think you're better than that. I think you are so uh such a well-oiled machine in a sense that if you really took that personal responsibility the same way an individual would that's trying, like an alcoholic trying to get sober, or like a sex addict trying to recover from like, if they literally had that mentality of recovery, like a recovery mentality, like, oh, we have to recover the way we've treated our readers and the way we've treated our listeners. We have to recover the way we've misguided people, maybe take some ownership over this. They're not the only one to do it. They're just the ones that do it so openly, blatantly, right? So they're just an easy target. But like, it's one of those things where it's like, um, I do think that if just one giant institution like that did that, the others would respond competitively. Like, they go, oh, they're about to get more trust. They're about to
yeah,
get more trust because they just put it all on the table. They admitted that they were pieces of shit and they're trying to start over today, right? And then their headlines start reflecting that. It's less fear mongering and it's more information, and like, it's like, oh shit. And then everyone else is like, oh my god, people are turning. They like this thing again because they've hit a point of redemption. If there's anything, we like seeing people go through hell to
and
get out
fucking
clean the
redeem
other side.
themselves.
We
Yes,
fucking love it,
love that
right?
shit.
So you're telling me there's not an actual market advantage for companies to stop doing this? I actually believe there is. I actually believe
Yeah.
they can make money off of being better. I 100% believe that.
Yeah,
And
and it's kind of
yeah,
like I 110% agree with that because it's like I said, like when I was working at Spectrum and everything was just so shitty and everything. I saw I just saw like how things could be better, and how it was better was just by it's exactly what you said. Just apologize and just say you're gonna do better and just start treating people the way they should be treated, and I promise everything will just be fine.
yeah,
But
and
it's like
just go through the recovery. Like, if you need me to walk you through the steps, I'll help you. The amends is the hardest one. Um, I want to tell you this because kind of what we're getting to here is this idea that when things are about profit, when things are about money, when things are about image, that it's a very unkind way to exploit other people. And the
yeah,
thing is like, when you talk about the people that are exploited by these institutions, I look at it as a learning graph. And that their learning curve, where they are on the curve, is just a little lower. And so there's like an exploitation point where if you're under a certain point of education, you're more likely to be exploited, right? And so like I almost feel like it goes the opposite way too. If you're like too much ego or too full of yourself or too full of your own ideas or too self-righteous, that you'll also have the same amount of blinders as someone with a lower education, because you didn't actually get the education of being open-minded or being able to be non-judgmental or things like
Yeah.
that, right? So when I think about kindness, I think kindness is such a flowery word for one of the most difficult concepts. Because to really understand kindness, to really, 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 really get this, like I look at it this way: like I told you my passion for comedy. I told you what I'm trying to build. I told you how much I care about this. But guess what? There's comedians who don't like me. There's comedians who won't want to work with me. I'm fighting for comedians, and they may not want to fight back. You know what I mean? They may not want to fight with, or that kind of thing, right? And what am I supposed to do? Does kindness say, "Oh, I opened the door to be kind," or "I opened the door to be thanked"? Like, what are you doing this? And if you can come to the point where you go, "Actually, I'm going to be kind, no matter if people are kind back to me or not." It doesn't matter. Their kindness or diskindness will not be a measurement of my actions. That is kindness. And that is really hard to accept, because then you have to stand there and going, oh, things maybe aren't working out the way I wanted, or people have a perception of me that I believe is untrue. None of that matters. What matters is that you're in the present doing what you can with what you got. And I honestly think that, like, if we were to understand that kindness is practical, that if we all did that, if we all kind of assume positive intent and we're exhibiting kindness and accepted that others aren't going to respond the way we want them to, then it's a much better situation. You'll actually find the people that really fuck with you, they really fuck with you. They want to,
Yeah.
they're going to ride or die with you. You go back to Survivor, you're going to have a good alliance. You know what I mean? But like none, and those are the people that end up creating some really special things in this world, and you can do it with a small amount of people, like Joey Diaz. He's a comedian in America, and one of his quotes is, "It only takes 3 badass motherfuckers to take over a country."
Yeah,
And
that quote right there. Yeah.
that quote always, it made me believe in the power of small teams. It made me believe in the power of grit, of wanting to get it done. And a lot of people don't realize, like, if you got a real big goal, you don't have time to resent. Do you think soldiers have time to resent each other when they're in the fucking mix? No, no, no.
And
Right? Like,
that's that's such a good point. And it goes right back to, my learning point. And it also ties into, when you said God, sorry, the point is so good. This conversation is so good. But it goes back into, learning, and, for me it's like when we go through all these things in life, having the ability to just sit back and think and learn from them. They're not mistakes, they're experiences. You're failing forward. That's basically what, just picking your shit up from, yeah, we make mistakes, but if you actually analyze it and you learn from it, you can just pick up your shit and you just keep moving. Every time you make a mistake, that's basically the big thing, especially for me, because
yeah.
the last 3 years, it's just been ever since I became a father and I've had a beautiful daughter to raise and do everything for. It's just been a constant, sprint. And if I stop at any time, everything falls apart. So, when mistakes are made and bad things happen, or situations that are out of my control happen, the best thing that I am able to do is just sit there, analyze it, learn, and move on. Because like you said, Cliff,
Yeah.
we make mistakes, but as long as we have good positive intent of, behind the moving forward, we can accomplish a lot. And
I,
I've
I
learned
really
that.
believe it, man. I really, really believe it. I also just want to add that if anyone's listening and is like, yo, I kind of want to get to that point, but I'm not sure how to get there, let's have a quick conversation of how to resourcefully do this. Like,
Yeah.
we start off, we're going to go to Google, and you're going to Google mental frameworks, different ways of thinking. Like, use these kind of search
Yeah.
terms. And then go through, open a bunch of tabs, and read stuff that you like. Find the authors on Twitter. Follow them on Twitter. Follow books on the subjects and listen to them on Audible. Find podcasts that those authors have been on and listen to them on Spotify. Right? Like, we have resources. We have YouTube. We have all these things available to us. You just have to say yes to these resources,
Yeah.
right? You have to be willing to go and look, and don't resort to, oh, I can't do that, I don't know where to start. Like, just start with Google. And like, I'm trying to be really practical there, because honestly, Thomas, like, I love having these conversations, but sometimes I think that's where people struggle. They don't know where to start,
Yeah.
you know.
And honestly, the biggest, like, for me, and I know I keep saying for me, I sound like a broken record. But for me, like, the first place to start is your mistakes, your
Yeah.
failures. And that's kind of the hugest biggest point, is that if you can make mistakes, if you can have your failures, and I'll keep throwing quotations around it, because I fell in love with failing, because it teaches you so much about yourself. It teaches you so much about life, because if you were to just succeed, you're going to come across a failure, and you're not even going to really know, how to really react to it. It's going to be a lot more devastating than if you just didn't learn from your mistakes, moving forward. But
Absolutely. And like, I do
that's the
kind of
starting point, man, is making those mistakes, doing the uncomfortable, doing what you got to do, and just learning. Always have a learning mind.
No, absolutely. And like, I can see that we're most likely wrapping this up soon, so I want to kind of leave you on a story about mistakes, if that's okay, because I feel like this will kind
Yeah.
of bring a lot home of what we're talking about. But like, I've been performing stand up for 14 years, and one of the biggest like failures, whatever you want to call it, right? Like, for me, was I got the chance to open for like a fairly prominent Canadian comedian, and it was about 3,000 people. And this was in where I was living in Hamilton. This was going to be a huge experience. I thought it was going to be the deal breaker for me. Like, I was like, yo, let's go. This is going to be amazing. Maybe I can tour with this guy. And then I went on stage and I heard what 3,000 people sound like silent. Yeah, kind of like that, right? Not quite. It hurts a little more, like,
I
I
can
bombed
imagine.
I bombed so bad that I heard 20 minutes of pin drops. And then I brought the guy on stage. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. So I'm like, oh, fuck this. I snuck out the back. I didn't want anyone to see me. And I went to this local shawarma place. There's a shawarma poutine. And like, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to drown in this thing. I'm going to eat so much shawarma poutine. I'm going to fucking die. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to die in this thing. And this guy writes me on
Warma.
this guy writes me on Twitter, and he goes, Cliff, where are you? I was just at the show. I wanted to get a picture with you. And I was like, oh, I guess he wanted a picture with me on my last day on Earth before I throw myself off a bridge. I see. Okay. So, like, this guy, I write him on my story, man. I went to get shawarma. All the best. I'm glad you like the show. Like, I move on. So I'm coming out of the shawarma place. This dude runs up with his girlfriend. Man, I gotta see you. I'm so sorry. I just really wanted a picture with you, if that's okay. And I'm like, I gotta ask you why. I just really ate shit up there, and I don't know what's happening right now. And he's like, oh, yeah, that was not your crowd for sure, bro. And then I realized, like, yeah, it was 3,000 people that were there for him, and it turned out that there was 2 people there that were there for me,
Right.
right? And like, and they're not going to be very loud in the 3,000 people, right? And it's one of those things where it gave me a bit of perspective. And the very next night, I was in a Polish hall basement performing for about 150 people. I went right back on stage, and I went and did it, and I loved it. And I was comfortable calling myself a comedian at that time, because
Yeah.
like, I felt like I experienced this big failure, this thing that I thought would have helped my career, and it hurt so bad. But my soul was disagreeing with that. My soul went, no, you got to show tomorrow. You got to get back on stage. You have no choice. Yeah, literally what you said. Like, if you fall down, you just have to get back one more time. And like, I tell everyone, like, whatever it is you're going through, if you close your eyes, you picture whatever your 3,000 silent people is, right? Whatever that is, understand that that experience was one thing for you and something different for everyone else in that room. You have some people that didn't like it. You have some people that'll chase you to a shawarma shop, right? Like, and then the next day, though, is that's where it matters. What are you going to do now? Are you going to give up? You're going to give up
Right.
because it felt bad?
Because either way, the sun is gonna shine, the moon's gonna be there, life goes on for everybody. But it's about picking your shit up and keep on going. What did you learn? And it's beautiful that you said that, and you saw, like, that guy like said a simple, like, one simple sentence, which was, "Ah, that wasn't your crowd." Because that's exactly what it was. It just what it's not that you were a terrible comedian. It's not that you were just horrible at what you do. It just was not your crowd. And instead of you feeling horrible like you were, like, I suck, this
Yeah,
just
yeah, of
sucks.
course. Yeah.
Like, he kind of just said that one little thing, like, oh, that just wasn't your crowd. And you were just like,
Dude, that next summer, that like right after that experience, like, so imagine I gave up that night. If I gave up that night and I never went back into comedy, I would never be here having this conversation with you, right? And later on that summer, about 2 months later, I would have never heard what it sounded like to hear 6,000 people laugh. So I knew
right.
what 3,000 people sound like silent, but then I got to experience what 6,000 people sound like
That
laughing.
thrill of 6,000 people laughing must have been.
It was a cool
huge.
experience. It was a rock show. It was really neat, right? And like that kind of stuff is what I'm saying is like you get these opportunities in life and they teach you these really great things. And then like you're not sad that it's gone. You're glad that it happened, right? And like for me, like if I never had that early expulsion experience, I don't know if I would try to look at things so like, every sided. But like I do try to take that approach to most things now. And I'm an open book too. So if anyone ever wants to hit me up online, like on the Instagram or whatever, and just talk about the shit, I love it. I love supporting other people, other creatives, encouraging others to do this stuff. It means a lot to me. And it means a lot that we're able to have this conversation. So I appreciate it, man.
Hell yeah. And go ahead and plug your company, man. You've been talking about your company. I was gonna segue into it like way earlier, but tell us the name.
It's all
tell us
good.
where we can find it.
Yeah, so I run a company called The Other Comedy Company where we facilitate corporate training, and all of our facilitators are professional comedians and improvisers. So it's 2 hours of gamified improv that help get you closer to your goals or get over blockers that might have been holding you back or holding your team back. So we do this for sales, leadership, and support, and honestly, it's awesome. We also do like private shows, special events, and all that kind of stuff. But the big thing that we're working on right now is our corporate training product, and we're just super stoked about it. And it's that continually learning how to do it better, how to connect, and all the feedback that we get from our clients really helps us form what we're creating and doing too, right? So like it's been a really great experience. That's theothercomedy.co online if you want to hit it up.
And that's the website, correct?
Yes, correct.
Do you have a Instagram handle or a TikTok handle, anything like that?
It's Other Comedy Co, but I'm actually I'm blocked out of that account at the moment, and I haven't been able to figure it out. And I'm literally like, oh my god, I am the worst business founder. Like I can't get into my Instagram. So like you can follow me. I'm at Clifford Myers. Clifford like the big red dog. Myers like the serial killer. And if that helps you at all, but like I'm hoping to get that up and running soon because we just started doing some campaigning on LinkedIn and that kind of thing. So I definitely want to start creating more content, and we will be doing the Other Comedy podcast this year. So that's going to be really exciting.
I love that, man. I love that. So real quick, I had a question for you. I asked all my guests this, so just have a good imagination here, right?
All right. Namaste. So, I'm ready.
You're sitting there in an arena. You don't know your opponent yet.
Okay.
But you have the option. All of a sudden, a screen comes down and says, choose your opponent. You get 2 options. You get either 2 Hilary Clinton-sized chickens or 30 chicken-sized Hilary Clintons. And you got to choose the fight one.
All right, 2 Hillary-sized chickens is terrifying, but like the idea of chicken-sized Hillarys, like I'm not even like I never picked a side on that shit. Like whatever, right? Like I'm a Canadian, so like, I don't have a dog in that fight. But like It sounds so bad to say this. Like the idea of punting a bunch of little Hillarys. I want to do the same to Trump. Both of them. If I just like hoop them like beanbags. If I can play hacky sack with Hilary Clinton, yo, you want to go inside and play Hillary hacky? Like, yeah, Hillary sack? Are you fucking kidding me? Of course I want to do that. Thomas, you're right. We need to shrink all politicians so we can play hacky sack with their bodies. I actually believe in this very
Let's
much so.
go. I contributed to society. No,
Dude,
but
this is
wow,
where it
like
all began.
you gave the best answer to that, because normally like I get into argument. I asked that question on purpose so that I could have like a satirical argument with people, because people really are like, well, yeah, it'd be a lot easier to fight the 30, but like you don't want to challenge. You don't want to like fight two huge ass chickens to the death and just see what happens. Like, because imagine your headstone says like died after a courageous fight with the two biggest chickens on the fucking planet.
Two giant chickens. I don't know, man. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's more embarrassing. Okay, well, like, here's the thing. Like, what's the better victory, right? I think the better victory is the less embarrassing death. It would be more embarrassing to be killed by 30 little Hillarys. Like, they all
Oh,
climb you
yeah.
like Gulliver Travels. Like, I
Imagine
wouldn't like
that video like viral on the internet, just you
Oh,
getting
yeah, and
jumped
then
by
it's like,
30 little.
30 little chicken Hillarys killed Clifford Myers. Like, what a shitty way to go. I should have died with my cat that day on shrooms. Are you kidding me right now? Now I'm surrounded by a bunch of little Hillary chickens? No, thank you.
And that's what I'm saying, like that's 30 little humans. So like when people say that, I'm like, well, what if you know, you can't just sit there and count out 30. So 25 could come running out of one of the entrances, and you know, you're distracted with them, you're punting them, you're fucking strangling them and throwing them. And
the
what
way
if the
I would-
five come from behind and just like grab your ass or something, you know?
I would design the arena to have piping across, so Hillarys are coming out of different pipe entrances. That
Oh,
would make it
God.
more complicated. The strategy then would be to center, right?
Yeah.
And basically create my own zone. I would call it the punt zone, right? Get him in, punt him out. Get him in, punt him out.
But
That's
what if you hurt your leg on one of those punts?
Then you drop to your knee, you call them Kaepernick their skulls.
Okay. All right. All right. Listen, man, I enjoyed this conversation because listen, I'm white 6 times a week, and then there's one day where I'm just white as fuck. You know, like I stare out the window a little bit more. I read a newspaper. I judge people in weird ways. You know, I eat mayonnaise sandwiches. I yap at my wife. You know,
stop
that's me.
being white, please. I've been
Like, it's
I've
just one
this
day
for
out
you.
of the week I'm white as fuck.
Oh,
You gotta give yourself that period to really just lock into your caucasity.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard for sure, but I appreciate the absurdity.
This is my encouragement to you, Clifford.
Yeah, that's so funny, man. No, this has been a really great experience. I'm glad you did this podcast with me, brother.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I definitely appreciated it. You know, I'm gonna, don't worry guys, if you love this conversation, I will convince Clifford to come on here a little bit more often.
Yeah,
Because
that'd be
I
fun.
really fully enjoyed this. If you guys liked it, make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, sell your souls to us. Shout out to Belgium, by the way. They're still following us. And make sure you guys follow all of Clifford's handles as well, because he's got a really good idea that I truly believe, you know, should get as much support as it deserves. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Have a good night. Have a good day whenever you end up watching this.